All right, welcome to tonight's OTF Connect session, the Paperless Classroom with Andrew Beryansky. My name is Colin Jago. I'm going to moderate for you this evening. Just welcome to everybody on behalf of OTF. I know Syria is not here this evening, but she often comes in just to say hello, and she just loves to see where everybody's from. So this is sort of a map showing that we've got people from all over the province here, so which is really cool. And we've got, and as we had checked in before, we got a number of people, quite a few people back for at least their second OTF Connect session. So that's really, really cool that we're able to do that and come together, in the evening for some self-directed PD. I don't know about you, but my favorite PD is my self-directed PD. So without any further ado, we're going to hand things over to Andrew, and Andrew will take you through a bunch of different ways to help make your classroom a little less paper full. I know I'm looking forward to some new tips here as well. So Andrew, my friend, it is all over to you.
Thanks a lot for the intro, Colin. And just before you jump off the mic there, am I still sounding okay before I go ahead?
That sounds good to me, so hopefully it sounds good to everybody else.
Here's hoping. Usually there's one or two it doesn't come well through for, but hi everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm always impressed by the number of Ontario teachers who leave up a night of their own time to jump in and do some learning for their classroom, so kudos to all of you for joining us tonight. All right, so a little bit about myself first. I'm a high school teacher. I teach in the Futures for One project down in Kitchener, Ontario, which is part of the Waterloo Region District School Board. I love looking for different ways to integrate technology in my classroom to help my students' learning and to make my life easier. And I also help work with some startup companies in the area, and I've got the pleasure of helping run TEDx Kitchener Ed, which is coming up in a couple months for us. Anyways, we're here to talk tonight about the idea of a paperless classroom. And I want to highlight from the start, when we talk about a paperless classroom, it's really the idea of... Sorry guys, I'm looking through. I think you might have your mic on if you want to turn that off. In the top left-hand corner, if you click the talk button there we go. Thanks. Anyways, we're talking tonight about going paperless in the classroom and kind of a philosophical shift. With that in mind, I do want to highlight that it's not necessarily you have to be completely paperless or that you should be completely paperless. I do think there is definitely a time for analog and a time for digital. Paper can be very, very important and a great way to do things at some points in time. But when we talk about going paperless, it's kind of looking at a different way, or maybe an assignment or a unit or something you're doing where it makes sense to have it in a more digital sense. So just want to start off and kind of highlight that for people tonight. Paperless doesn't necessarily mean always no paper. Okay, but with that in mind, with the idea of going paperless, I think it's really important to ask the question, why should we? There's a variety of things to kind of look at for that, and I just want to start off before we get into the nitty-gritty here, looking at a bit more of a philosophical idea behind it. So, I mean, there are a variety of reasons to go paperless. I've been trying to do it myself. I usually take pride in having the lowest photocopying budget in my department at my school, and not just because of the numbers, but I find it works better for me and it works better for my students as well. So let's talk about the why a little bit. For one, I feel like we've all been here as teachers. I know I personally hated I'm an English teacher, and I would carry massive stacks of essays and pieces of writing around with me. I hated that piece of it personally. By going digital, I carry my laptop around, and it's fantastic. I've got access to all my students' work at all points in time. And even with the idea of paper, when you usually hand it back to a student, as a teacher, that's usually the last time I see it. And I really miss that when it comes to looking at marks at the end of the semester or a term coming up to report cards and trying to accommodate growing success and look at the whole student, how they've evolved over time. A lot of times I find just a number in my mark book doesn't do a whole lot for me. I want to have access to the feedback I've given them, how they incorporate that, how they evolved through a semester on their work. And so the idea of going digital with my assessments, I think is really valuable. Having student work at my fingertips all the time is really, really valuable. When I'm at parent-teacher meetings, I can just pull them out with my laptop and get it there. And sorry, J2 and the friends, you're saying the audio is garbled here. Can other people just give me possibly a green check mark if you can hear me okay, or a red X if you can't hear me, just to check before we go ahead here. Okay, I'm getting lots of green check marks. So I think most people can hear me right now. A few red X's. Very sorry to the people who are having problems, but look, the majority of people can hear now. We're just garbled a little bit. Okay, it seems like it's big.
Andrew, can you maybe grab your mic volume and pull it up a little bit, like the level of the mic, see if that might help?
Sure. I just jacked up a little bit. How am I coming through now?
Okay, let's see if that helps then.
Okay.
It sounded better to me. Oh, we got a better from J2 there? Okay, let's go with that. Thanks, bud.
All right, there we go. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Anyway, so making that shift away from paper, I found has been very, very helpful for me as a teacher, and hope for my students as well. I also find it can actually make you more productive. I know a lot of people kind of question, like, why should we switch into digital, or why can't I just keep doing things the way I'm doing them? And anytime I talk about making a shift with teachers, one of the things I really like to focus on first, and there's kind of always two questions. One, if we make any change in our classroom, is it better for our students and for their learning? I think there are a lot of reasons for going paperless. You can kind of say yes to that. And then as a teacher, because we're incredibly busy people, most of us put a great deal of time and effort into our students in our classrooms. I think the second and really important question to ask is, how is this going to work from a time standpoint? Is this going to be a lot of extra work for me to do? I think if you can say, yes, it's going to be better for my students, and no, it's not going to create more work, then you can really find a shift to make. And I know for myself here again, by going digital, it's been a huge time saver for me. It gives me more time to move through my classroom work with my students one-on-one. It gives me more time to give them formative feedback. There's a lot of great things about going to the digital space that really helps in that space. So I found it a great asset that way too. And also there is an environmental side here too, and a variety of ways in which ties into money as well. I mentioned the budget for photocopying. My English department at my high school has made an effort to kind of go more paperless, and just this semester already, we saved about $500 in photocopying, kind of tracking ourselves to previous years. And that's money we're throwing back into textbooks and other things and novels for our classes. So there can be a lot said for that. It is more environmentally friendly, and you can save a fair bit of money going that route too. All right, with that in mind, kind of shifting to the whys here and looking a bit more into what does this actually look like. And I think if we're talking about going paperless, one thing that's really important to understand is this idea of cloud computing or living in the cloud. Just out of curiosity, and we'll go back and poll the audience here and clear the last one. When we talk about the idea of cloud computing or cloud-to-cloud space, can you give me a green check mark if you feel like you're comfortable with that term and you understand what cloud computing is, and a red X if you don't feel very comfortable with the idea of cloud computing? All right, a lot of people look like they're feeling pretty good and comfortable with cloud computing, so I'm going to spend very little time on this, but we did have a few X's. So when we're talking about the cloud, it's basically an easy way to think about it. For a long time with computers, things were stored on your computer. It was physically tied to it. If the computer crashed, all the files on it were gone. And then we came with a USB stick, and then we could, okay, you can save your files to something else and move them around. And the cloud's really like a way of thinking about a USB stick that's not something you physically carry, but it's somewhere else. It's the idea of saving your work and having things exist on a data server that's somewhere, and it's really not tied to a device. As long as you've got an internet connection, you have access to those files. It's like going into an H drive on your computer or on a USB stick, but it's not tied to a physical device that you carry with you. You can access it from anywhere. And that's a really another piece that I love about going digital. I can do some work or look at student work on my laptop at home or my desktop computer at home. I can leave it there. I can walk into work the next day, jump on a different computer, pull it up and have access to it there. I can pull my phone out and see I have access to my things there. It doesn't matter where I'm doing my work or where it exists, because I can access it from anywhere else. And that's kind of, I'd say, the key component to cloud computing. And then a key piece to that is that it's synced, as I was just talking about. It doesn't matter what you're working on, you can have access to it from anywhere, and it's the same for your students. I think that's a really nice thing as well. It's not students carrying around a variety of textbooks or a variety of notebooks and trying to keep track of all that. They can access from anywhere. So if you're fortunate enough to have laptops in your classroom for your students, they can be doing their work there, jump on from the computer at home. A number of students, they do have a device, personal device at home. That's something they can access as well. So we're looking at a variety of things today and just kind of talk a little bit myself on how I plan to run this session. There's about 5 different aspects I want to talk about with you in terms of some strategies for going digital and going paperless in your classroom today. The first one we're looking at is talking about Google Apps for Education. If you come from a GAF school board, this will make sense for you. If you've got some experience from it, I'm going to start off relatively the basics early on, but kind of go relatively quickly with it because I think a number of people will be comfortable and safe in the space. The other thing I'll highlight, if you don't come from a Google Apps for Education board, you probably come from Microsoft board, and if you haven't made the switch yet, you'll probably be switching over to Office 365 very soon, which gives you the very same idea. They work very similar in a lot of different ways. Actually, just kind of throw this out to the group here again. Can you give me a green check mark if you come from a school board that has Google Apps for Education, and a red X if you don't have a board, if you're from a board that doesn't have Google Apps for Education? I'm always fascinated by this. I'm doing this for a few years now, and I would say like 2 years ago it was maybe 50-50, and now it tends to be like 80 or 90% in GAF. And we're getting up into the 80% or 75% range, it looks like. 2 boards, 1 GAF, 1 Office 365. That's interesting. So yeah, D2L, and D2L is an interesting tool too. And the GAF is usually integrated with that of Microsoft Word as well. Okay, so again, if you're coming from a board that's not Google Apps for Education, some of the direct stuff we're going to talk about in the next little bit might not directly apply to you, but keep in mind, if you get Office 365 in your board, it's just the functionality is the same. It's not really about the tool, and I'm really personally device and tool agnostic. It's more about the philosophy of what you're trying to implement in your classroom. Okay, so talking about kind of going GAF here, let's start off with this. And so, like I said, I'm going to start off with some very quick basics here, and just for those of you who've never done one of my sessions before, the way I like to work it is I have a variety of screenshots. I'm going to go through an idea, show you what it looks like, some ideas around it. Then I like to kind of show you a video of that, so if I'm going a little too quick, you're going to get a chance to see it again and actually watch the video and see it in action. And I like to give a chance, a bit of time to go play, try it out for yourself, and take any questions there. So feel free to pop in with a question anytime. But that being said, I do have set spots throughout the session with 4 or 5 different times where we're going to stop, give you a chance to go and try things yourself, and come back and ask any questions you might have. Okay, so starting off, we're looking at the basics of Google Drive. And we're talking about Drive, you're really looking at the Google Apps for Education suite, and you've got a variety of options here. There's a calendar, Google Docs, which is very similar to Microsoft Word if you're familiar with that space, Google Sheets, which is very similar to an Excel file, Gmail for email, Google Slides is very similar to PowerPoint, and so on. There's a variety of options there. And so again, just going to go very quickly through the very basics, because I know every time I do one of these sessions, we have people all across the board. We've got some people who this is the first time they're looking at trying to use it, and we've got some people who are power users. So I'm going to kind of shoot for the middle here. So if you've never used it before, it might seem a little quick for a little bit. You'll get a chance to see it again. And if you're a power user, you might be bored for the next few minutes, but I'll catch up to you, I'm sure. So very basics here. If you're looking to sign in, you just go to google.com anywhere, or your school board might have a unique page for you to go and log into your account. Up in the top right-hand corner, you have a chance to sign in and use your board email address to get into that and sign into your password. Once you're logged in, you have a variety of options here. You can click on those 9 little boxes in the top right-hand corner to access directly into any of your apps. And we focus on the Google Drive app here right now. And Colin just raised an interesting point. While I'm specifically focusing on Google Apps for Education, on a personal level to manage this, you can definitely get if you don't come from a board with Google Apps for Education, you're also welcome to use a personal Google account as well. One thing I would caution, depending on what level and age you're working with, is if you want to tell students, if you're coming from a board that doesn't have Google Apps for Education, if you're directing students to go sign up for it or not, that might be a question you might want to have an administrator before you head into that space. The other way to get to Google Drive is just go to google.com/drive. And once you get there and log in, you're going to see something that looks kind of something like this as a home screen. If you're using it for the first time, you won't see all these folders and files like I have in mine. But when we're talking about Google Drive, you're looking at 2 things. One, it's cloud storage. As we were talking about living in the cloud before, think of this as a H drive or a drive on your computer or the USB stick. A great thing is if you're a board that has Google Apps for Education, you actually get unlimited storage. So if you can throw a ton of videos there, audio files, whatever it may be. You can have like 300 gigabytes of space used up, and it's all there, and you have access to it from anywhere at any time. So it's great that way. So that's the first thing. Google Drive is just a storage space, but it's also, on the flip side, it's also a creation tool. So if you see that new button in the top right, left-hand corner there, you can create a variety of things. So like I said, Google Docs is very similar to Microsoft Word. You can use Sheets for Excel. There's Google Forms, Google Drawings. There's a whole bunch of things you can add on to it and create in Drive as well. So it's kind of a whole space to store your things and also create new things. You also have options to share with me. And one of the greatest things about moving into the cloud and kind of going paperless is this being in this digital space online where you can collaborate with other people. So whether that's colleagues you're working with in your school, your department, or if that's students you have in your classroom, kind of sharing back and forth there. We'll talk about that more in detail in a little bit. But I'd say that's one of the key, most important things to going paperless here is that you have this digital space where you can collaborate and work with other people. And very basic options when you're in here too. You can search anything within your drive very easily. There's different ways to sort it or organize it. You can look at recent activity. There's a lot of different ways you can look at this here. Okay, that was the very basics of Google Drive. Like I said, I want to give people a chance to kind of go and see and look at it in action first. And so I've got a demo video here. I think it's about 7 or 8 minutes long. Again, if you're a power user in Google Drive and very familiar with this, feel free to kind of check out for 5 or 6 minutes and just kind of keep an ear on what we're doing. We're going to get into some deeper stuff as we go through this in a little bit. Colin, I'll pass this over to you. For everybody, once you finish the video, if you can give us a green check mark to let us know when you're done, when you're ready to move on. I think we're hoping the video is going to play right in the webcast here, but if it's not working for you, we'll post it in afterward as well. So Colin,
okay, thanks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post that URL right into this what's called the web tour page. So as soon as I hit enter here, this video should just start to play automatically in the screen in front of you. If it doesn't, I'm also going to paste it into the chat so you can click on that. So hopefully it'll play right in front of you, but if not, you can click on it on the chat. But like Andrew says, when you're all finished the video, just give a green check mark so we know that you're done. All right, here we go.
Colin, I'm going to ask you to switch us back here if you can. Thank you very much. And it looks like the web tour worked for everyone there in the video, so Colin, kudos to you for getting that going. It hasn't always been the case for my session, so thank you for that. And seeing a lot of green check marks, so I think most people are back with us now. So I'm going to continue on. Perfect, yeah, gentlemen's got a check mark there. Okay, so again,
Andrew?
Yeah, sorry, Colin, go ahead.
Just there was a Kathy had asked a question about installing Drive on your computer, and I think it's something that might be worth looking at. She wants to know if you install it and you store stuff on your computer, will it then take up space on your computer, I guess, and does that sort of defeat the purpose a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a few questions about kind of backing up your Google Drive. And so Kathy, I'm going to come back full circle to your question here. What I would say to people, the purpose of storing things in the cloud, especially with Google and how they work their stuff, they back it up in multiple spaces. Like when we're talking about storing in the cloud, it's really on a server somewhere, and that's where it's being stored. They do, I think, 4 or 5 backups of all their files. So if for whatever reason they had a problem with one server, you don't have to worry about losing your files. The other one just kicks in and it's there and you have access to it. I've been using Google Drive for, I think, 5 or 6 years now, and I've never lost anything. So I wouldn't worry about backing things up in that way if that's a concern for people. But some people want to have access right from the computer, so you do have an option within Drive. Say like install Drive on your computer, and you can do this on a Mac or on a PC. What it would do, it creates a Drive folder on your computer, but and it will actually, anything you throw into Drive or use in Drive, it will back it up automatically while you have the internet connection into the folder on your computer. But yes, it will then take up space, and it will take up hard drive space. So one of the great things about using cloud storage is that it saves the space on your computer and your hard drive, but if you have a ton of space, you might want to do the backup. I've installed Drive on my computer before, and I started getting, just recently actually, I started getting pretty close to using up all my space, so I actually deleted it off and I just use it in the cloud now. So Kathy, does that kind of help with your question? Perfect, happy to hear it. Okay, so anyways, right now, and I'm happy to take questions here too, but again, if you're relatively new to Drive, or you saw some things in the video, things we talked about that you weren't aware of, that you want to go try, it's going to build in like 4 or 5 minutes here, so call in if you can actually give us a timer, maybe throw 4 minutes up there, we'll give people a chance to go play and try it out, and I'm here at the same time, quite happy to take any questions you have.
Okay, 4-minute timer started.
And if you have a question, have a mic, please feel free to jump on the mic. If not, you can also throw it over in the chat feature there. Well, I'll keep an eye on it there. We can answer questions that way. And just jumping back to, Kathy says, I was told that you shouldn't alter the folder name Classroom. Why? Kathy, that's great. We're actually going to talk about Google Classroom a bit later in the session. And yeah, I agree, you shouldn't alter folders. We'll touch on that a bit later, but I would say the big reason is not messing with any folders in Classroom is Google Classroom's going to have to do a lot of automation for you and a lot of sharing for you. And it automatically creates those folders and drops some like files in there for you. The reason people usually recommend is not messing with that is because Google's done a lot of coding on the back end to make all the automation happen. And if you change a few things, you could mess around with that. Now, that being said, you can go and mess around a fair bit and not do any damage, but it's better to be safe than sorry, I would say. And that's probably why someone recommended it, is just to not mess with the automation. You can definitely go into Classroom and look at the folders and see the files, but it's best not to play with sharing permissions and delete things in or out of there and add things in. Sarah, they're looking at the difference of Google Drive versus D2L. I would say it depends on what you're planning to use it for. The next part of the session here, we're going to be looking at Google Docs specifically. And one thing I would say that D2L doesn't offer specifically would be the collaboration feature and the kind of sharing back and forth and that live document and things that way. It really depends on what you're looking to do. Like I said, I'm very device and tool agnostic. It really depends on what you're looking to do. D2L has some nice features. Google Drive has some nice features. I wouldn't say they're the same thing. They're in a different space. So it really depends on what you're looking to do for what the best tool is for you, I would say. And just kind of scrolling back through some questions. Vera, yeah, we're talking about the storage space. You can upload anything you want to Google Drive. So it can be files, it can be entire folders off your computer. It can be pictures, it can be videos, PowerPoints, Word files, PDFs. It doesn't need to be stuff in the Google Apps for Education space. It can be any type of file that you can store on your drive. So for why it's free, it depends on what you're letting to catch there. Yeah, it's a good question. It depends on how your board has it set up. If you have a board account, there's like usually not much money changing hands there too. It's mostly free there. And there's two things, and this is really important for me to touch on for everybody here. We're talking about Google Apps for Education versus a personal Google account. If you're doing a personal Google account, and again, to highlight, not your Google Apps for School for Education account through your school, but a personal account, it's free there too. They don't give you unlimited storage for the free account. I think they give you about 30 gigabytes of storage in Drive to use a personal account. But why Google stuff is free, like Gmail, Drive, Docs, YouTube, all those things, is that they are data mining. They want you, your history, your search history, your personal information to gear ads to you. Where Google makes most of their money is off of advertising. And so it's a really important question. So they keep things free because they get information about you, and then they sell ads to you. So an example for me, I love to travel. So I'll look up flights and stuff like that. I'll go look at a few places and not find a good price, and so I'll leave. And then I'll go to, say, the Globe and Mail to read some news. And off to the side there, I get a little advertisement telling me that, hey, here's a 30% discount to go to Spain, which I was just looking at. And that's because I'm being tracked online, and they're sharing that information and selling ads for that. So that's where Google makes their money off their personal accounts. Now, to really highlight, and this is really important for people too, if you're looking at a Google Apps for Education account, Google has promised that they are not using that information. They're not tracking students or teachers using Google Apps for Education. They've turned that off. They're not pushing ads at people. So that would be the difference there. And so there's been some controversy over that, and people do some research into that. There's a lot of reading you can do on that. OSAPAC, which is a board that kind of works with all the boards in Ontario, most of the boards in Ontario, they've certified Google Apps for Education to kind of be safe for students and teachers to use, but that would be the difference between the personal account and your professional account. I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to talk back here. One other question I saw, someone just starting in, what app would we recommend for both teacher and grade 4 students? Vienna, I would kind of say it really depends on what you're looking to do. When you say an app, there's like all kinds of tools and devices out there. I'd say if there's something you're looking to try and do or kind of space you'd be in, that would kind of be the great question, looking like the right tool. All right, anyways, we're going to kind of move on here. So moving away from Drive. And as we mentioned, there's a ton of tools or Google apps or apps within Google Drive. They're all very similar in how they're set up. We're going to start here and talk about the Google Docs as a basics. And so really Google Docs is a substitute for, say, Microsoft Word as a word processor. Again, if you have used Google Docs before, I'm going to move through this relatively quickly, but I'm going to go through some basics here for the people who aren't that familiar with it. And then we'll get into, as I'm going through it quickly though, if it is new for you, we'll add another video demo here for you again so you can kind of see some of the stuff, and again, to some more of the power features of Google Docs as well. So if you've dabbled with Docs before, you might see some stuff that you didn't know about it too. All right, so when you're in Google Drive, like I said, it's a storage space, but it's also a creation place. If you click that red New button up in the top left-hand corner, you get a variety of options for what you can do. And as we talk about the uploads, you can click on File Upload there and upload an individual file, or the folder upload. Really important for the browser you're using. If you want to upload an entire folder off your computer to Drive, you can only do that through a Chrome web browser. You cannot do it through Safari or Internet Explorer. So if you want the folder upload option, you have to be using Chrome. I think that's just Google's way of saying, please use our web browser as opposed to someone else's. You can still upload files from any browser. What we're going to focus on here is creating different files. I mentioned Docs there, which is like Word, Sheets like Excel, Slides would be like PowerPoint. If you click on the More button there, you get a lot of other options too. You can do some really cool things with Google Forms and Google Drawing. There's a lot of fantastic apps. You can actually add on third-party apps as well, but we're going to focus on Google Docs here. All right, so when you open up a Google Doc or create a new Google Doc, it should look very similar to any other word processor you have not used in the past. Okay, you've got a variety of options. You can play around with the size there, very common things like font style, font size, bold, italics, underline. But it's also, keep in mind, you're working on the web and it's built for the web. And so we talked about cloud computing before, but if this is a new space for you, it's really important to remember when you're on a Google Doc, you're really on a website still. It's not the space that we're used to, like, buying a floppy drive or a disk or a CD or a DVD and popping into the computer to download the software and then using it on the computer. You're just in a web browser, you're working online. So with that, there's a lot of benefits that come with that because you can access the web right away and have very interesting tie-ins. You can link things out and do a variety of other things here. And again, the really cool stuff is that sharing and collaborating with other people digitally. And you can kind of see that stuff off to the right there. Yeah, Kathy, absolutely agree. The sharing feature is amazing. So we'll touch on here in a little bit. So those are the basics there, but again, if you're not ready for any of the other stuff, if just as a word processor, it works really well and it's there for you. You also have a variety of options to insert things here. So if you click on like insert image, you can pull off an image from your hard drive or your computer. You can link out to other websites. If you're working in math or sciences, they actually have an equations feature here to find different mathematical and scientific equations. I mentioned Google Draw, which is another app. You can actually open up a drawing in here and play around with shapes and sizes and add things into your document as well. You can do tables. There's a whole variety of special characters and a variety of options to insert things in here as well. You also have a variety of formatting options here, so like things like stripe screw, you can do subscripts or superscripts, play around with formatting, so a whole bunch of different options there as well too. And one of my actually favorite things with Google Docs, and I think this is where it gets really cool compared to like Word and some other word processors out there, is the tools section. And there's a few options here. Research, which I'll talk about more in the video, is probably the coolest thing. The first time I showed the research tool to my students, I actually usually get some oohs and ahs from the classroom. You can do some really cool things there. But essentially, if you click on research, you're gonna get a little pop-up box to the side, and you can search the web right from your document. So you want to find a quick definition of something and read about it very quickly, you can actually do that right from your document. If you search for images, you can actually find any image off Google, click it, drag it right over to your document, add it in there too. Really, really cool feature. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it. It's a great way to bring a lot of interactivity to your documents here too as well. And relatively new too, and if you haven't tried it before, it's actually worth doing. It's quite effective. There is voice typing that's free, built right into Google Docs. So you click on the voice typing. If you're using a device with a microphone in it, you can just do speech to text. You can just start talking to your computer, and your text will show up on your computer screen for you. I use this as a teacher a fair bit actually. It's a great way to do feedback and save yourself some time. I can talk a lot faster than I can type. It's also fantastic for students who struggle with writing. They can jump in here at a younger age as well too. If you're looking at grade 3, 4, where their typing is not as strong yet, you can have a device open, students can talk to it, and they can get text-based that way too. This is completely free. If you think just a few years ago, people like school boards were paying like thousands of dollars for students for things like Kurzweil and other programs. Yeah, that is great. Dragon dictation with Kurzweil is a really popular one. You can test it out. I would say try it, but I've used voice typing with Google Docs, and I find it to be very effective. So yeah, absolutely. So the voice typing feature there is too. Again, great for me for feedback. Great for students who struggle to write. Just sometimes talking the document and coming back and editing it is very, very cool too. But then getting to kind of what I find a really, really cool space here, and the key moving reason to move kind of towards going to Google Docs is the collaborative piece and the idea of sharing, giving comments, suggesting things to people, working in a collaborative space. So one option you have is the comments box here, and there's a few ways to get to comments. Basically, when you're commenting on something, it's a great way to leave feedback to someone. You're not changing the actual document, you're giving the dialog box off to the side, and it's tied to what you highlight in the document. It could be a single piece of punctuation or an entire paragraph, a sentence, a few words, whatever it may be. It's great when you're collaborating with other teachers to like look at a lesson plan or something along those lines to give some feedback to each other about changing the document. It's fantastic when you're working with students for formative feedback. This is what I do as an English teacher all the time with my students. They absolutely love it. Instead of getting a paper with scribbles all over the place and things underlined and the arrows and writing that they can't read from me, it's very clean, clear, and crisp for them seeing the feedback that I'm trying to give to them. I've noticed a huge improvement in my students' writing by using this feature with them as opposed to doing paper feedback with them as well. Parents love it because they can come in and see the feedback very easily. It's a really, really nice option. And then also with the commenting feature too, you get a variety of different ways to do it. It's great for peer assessment, having students give feedback to one another as well too. And Vera, I just put the sharing feature. We're going to get there actually about how to share, and we're going to talk about Google Classroom after this, which is going to automate it and make your life so easy to do that too. So we're going to get there, I promise soon. Okay, so that's the commenting feature and the basics of that there too. All right, so I've got another video for here. It's kind of going through the basics of using Google Docs. I go through a lot of different power features here as the video gets in more. So I think this one's about 10 minutes long. I'm going to pass over here to Colin, and just a quick reminder, once you're done the video, if you can give us that green check mark again, but it should work on the web here too, and we should all be on the same page. So video coming up here about Google Docs in action.
Okay.
You get to see the research tools and other stuff that I love.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, same deal as last time. It should just play in the front here. When it's all done, give us a green check mark. And if it doesn't play for you for some reason in the main window, I'll also put it in the chat box so you can click it there. So here we go.
All right, Colin, I'm going to ask you to jump us back into the presentation again. Perfect, great timing, and just to make sure people were able to follow along there, if you give us the green check mark to let us know that you finished the video. And looks like we're all there. So I threw a fair bit at you in that video. Again, I try to cover some of the basics to get people integrated, just looking at the very easy stuff with Google Docs, but also into a lot of the power features as well. Thanks for the kudos, Cindy. I appreciate that. You guys too, just so you all know, if it went by too quickly for you, if it's things you want to look back on, this little presentation we post online, we'll have the link shared with you too to the video, so you can come back and check stuff out after the fact. But Colin has to throw maybe 4 minutes up on the time here again, and we'll give you a chance to go and try some things that we just looked at there. So if you keep your sound on to kind of keep posted here, but in about 4 minutes, you have a chance to go and play. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you got a mic, just jump on the mic, or you throw them off in the chat feature, and I'll take them that way too. So take a few minutes and go try any of those new features that you saw in Google Drive there. Yeah, and Lauren, that's a great point too. If you got like 5 devices in the class, just kind of rotating through them and kind of sharing them that way, that can be great too. I don't know, the class, everyone's got different classroom setups and space setups, but you can have, sometimes people have like a more of a media corner in their classroom where students can kind of go off and work in that space. If you have a few mics there, or even if you kind of keep some volume down closer to that corner of the class, the speech to text might work there as well too. One thing is good is kind of going and playing around too. Again, people are across the space here, and I try to pack a lot of stuff in this session. I actually have a fair bit to go through and kind of share like different strategies for possibly going paperless in your classroom through the session. So we started off here talking about Google Drive and Google Docs. I actually did an earlier session for OTF that just dealt with those things for the entire session. So I believe in the email you got today, it actually had a link to that session. So if you want to go back and get some more in-depth insight into those things and how to use them, you actually have a link to one of those sessions and kind of go back and check out. I've got other demo videos in there. If you want to just go find those, you can see those examples as well. You're right, I totally get it. I love busy and loud classrooms. I'm personally not a fan of students sitting quietly for an hour in a classroom, so I think that's great. Yeah, so if you're coming from an area where students wouldn't have their own headsets or microphones that come with, my recommendation, like you can actually find them for very cheap, and it might be something to explore, like I said, as a department or as a school, maybe getting a book class set or even just a small little cart with 5 or 10 in them that teachers could possibly book out or share for those options. It might be something to explore that way. And one thing I'll just touch on here too, I didn't really talk about it in the video or in the space here because there's so many features to Google, but we've talked about the idea of commenting and sharing back and forth. There's a share button in the top right hand corner there. You can do it by adding in emails, and I know we've seen some questions here too about like how you organize that and how do you get files out to students. We're going to come up to that really quickly here as soon as the time's up here for people for a chance to play with Google Docs. We're going to slide over into looking at Google Classroom, which is a relatively new tool from Google, and it's there to kind of automate that entire process. So how do you share things with students? How do you get docs out? How do you get the right sharing permissions? As a secondary teacher, I kind of had my own hack prior to Google Classroom for a way to do that, and it took about like 15 steps. And at the secondary level, I was good enough to eventually get my students there to do that. But at the primary level, I know Google Classroom has been fantastic, and a lot of people love it because it makes the sharing very simple between students, especially for some younger kids. It makes the process so much more streamlined and easier for them. And it's obviously much easier for me as a secondary teacher as well. All right, so time's up there. So hopefully you all had a chance to kind of go and play and try out some of those features, and I hope you found them useful and working. But just keep an eye on the time here. We're going to move ahead with the presentation. So next up here is we're looking at Google Classroom. I'm always interested in how quickly I want to go through things here. So I'm just going to do a quick poll of the audience again. Can you give me a green check mark if you're familiar and use Google Classroom, and a red check mark if you have not used Google Classroom before? All right, actually a lot of people who haven't used Classroom. Okay, cool. I'm excited to show this to you guys then because I love Google Classroom. I think if you're using Google Docs with your students ever or anything in the Google Suite and looking to do some sharing and have students do work on a Google Doc and share it with you or hand it into you, Google Classroom is a godsend. In my mind, it is an absolute lifesaver. It is such a time saver. So, quick introduction to Google Classroom here. So it is tied to your Google Apps for Education account. One thing to clarify, you can only use Google Classroom if you have a Google Apps for Education account. You cannot use Classroom with a personal Google account. It's only tied to the school board accounts. So it's one thing to keep in mind there too. But if you go to classroom.google.com, you'll be brought to a screen like this. The little plus button, once you're signed in there, is for a chance for you to create a class or join a class. If you're in a school board as identified as a teacher, you have the option to create classes. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because there's a variety of other things I want to go through as well. Excuse me. But this is a dashboard for what Google Classroom looks like. Very similar to other things you're used to, like Facebook. It's got a feed or a stream, as they call it in Google Classroom. You can scroll through that. Off to the, to get students in, actually talk about that, you can see there's a little button at the top there for students. There's two ways you can add students to your Google Classroom after you've created a class. One way is you can go in and manually input them all in. It doesn't actually take that long because your school board will have all of them on file. So you start typing a student's name in, it will find their email address and kind of click to add them. I would say it's not complicated. Maybe it takes you 5 or 10 minutes to add a class in. But that's the more complicated way. The very simple way is you look over the far left bottom corner there where it says class code. Google Classroom actually gives you a unique class code for that specific class. If you have your students go to Google Classroom once, click on join a class, and then give them that code for your course. They type in, it's usually 5 or 6 digits. They type that in, and they automatically get added to your course. So if you can book a computer lab one day, jump in there and do that with your students. Very simple. Show them that process, and then bam, they're added to your class. To add things into Google Classroom, you're like looking to have you can do a news announcement, or create an assignment, or ask a question to students. You can reuse posts. There's a little plus button in the bottom right-hand corner. Kathy, that's the question of the QR codes. No, Google Classroom has not gone the QR code route. It's just gone the 5 or 6 digit unique code to that classroom and type in. But once they do it once, they're in. Anyway, so that plus button off to the bottom right there, you have these options to create an announcement, create an assignment, create a question to use the class, or to reuse a post. Okay, so that's the kind of starting point there. Once you go to create something, whether it be an announcement or post here, you have a variety of options for things to do. So you can insert a title for that, whatever it may be. If you're doing an assignment, which is what I'm trying to show you here, you can give an optional description for how to do that assignment. And after that, you have a variety of options for an assignment too. So you select a due date, or you don't have to have a due date for something. You can choose one if you want. You can also create a specific time for the due date. And then you have a variety of things to attach to this. The paperclip is you can attach any file you want off of your computer. So an example right there, you can attach, if you want to be, if you're selling most of your stuff in PDF or Word or PowerPoint, you can attach those files as a way to share stuff with your students very simply that way. You have the Drive icon, which is right there beside it. If you click on the Drive icon, it actually pops up a little box that goes right into your Drive, and you can find a file over there and attach that to this. There's a YouTube icon, so if you have YouTube that's accessible in your school board, you can actually pop a video in here that you want your students to watch. And lastly, there's a link feature, so it's a quick, easy way to pop in links, which is great. So trying to write a link on the board and get your students to go somewhere or emailing it to them, you just pop it in here. Every student can come in, log into Google Classroom, click on that newest post, click on the link, and then they're on the website you want them to be on. If you're a secondary teacher and you teach multiple subjects, you can actually do something and post it to 2 or 3 sections at the same time, so you have to recreate it over and over again. So you have that option to do as well. Okay, so those are the basics for creating something. This is how an announcement would look or how an assignment would look. But the real magic for Google Classroom, this is what I got really excited about when they put Classroom out, is when you go to post something as an assignment for students, and this is only true if you're using things from Google Drive. Okay, so this won't work if you're attaching a Word file or a PowerPoint file or a PDF along those lines. If you attach something from Google Drive, like a Google Doc, let's say it's an assignment you want your students to do, if it's something that questions you want them to complete, or a worksheet you want them to do, an essay you want them to write, whatever it may be, off to the right there you get this option. And so the default when you share something in Classroom students from Google Drive is that students can view the file, which means they can't go in and change anyway. They can click on it, they can see it, but they can't do anything with it right there. They could choose to go and make their own copy of that, and then they can go and hop the file to edit, but they wouldn't be able to edit that original copy. The second option here is for students can edit the file. What that does, it gives every student in your classroom access to edit that one document. Now that might sound crazy. You could have 25 or 30 students on the same document at the same time, all editing the same thing, and it can be a little nuts. But I'll give you an example of where I might use that. If I've got a test coming up on a novel we studied in class, I might break the book into sections, say 5 sections. I would put my students into 5 different groups and say, okay, you guys are going to do the first section, you guys got the second, you guys got the third, and they would go work on that different parts of that document and write a review for that before a test. It's an easy, quick, easy way for students to share all their thoughts together in small groups on one document. Now, the thing I truly love about Google Classroom is this third option, though, is make a copy for each student. What this does when you select this, you post the assignment, It will take, say, the Google Doc you added to it, and you've got 30 kids in your classroom. It will go and make 30 exact replicas of that document. It will share it with the students. It will make the student the owner of that document template that you put on them. It puts you on as a teacher so you can see their work at any time. You can comment on it. You give them feedback in the process. The student just does that. There's no sharing back and forth between you. Google Classroom also on the back end, it will go and create a folder in your Google Drive. It'll say Classroom. Each time you create a class, it'll have a folder for that class. And within that class, every time you post a new assignment, it will create a new folder for it. It also automatically adds the student's name to the file. So when you look at any file, it's got the student's name right there on it for you. They don't need to put it in. Google Classroom puts it in for them. And the students, if it's a Google Doc, will get a little turn-in button. So they go do their work on the Google Doc, and when they're ready to hand it in to you or ready for some feedback from you, they just click Churn In. When they click that, they can't edit the document anymore. You get a notification in Classroom as a teacher, so you can actually see this dashboard that says, okay, you posted to your 30 kids in your class, and 20 handed in. It will show you which 20 students have handed it in, and it will show you which 10 students haven't. It's an amazing feature for tracking what's going on there. Mike's a question, yes, the student can still view their work when they hand it in to you, they just can't make changes to it. If they hand it in to you and they want to make some changes to it, they can actually unsubmit it, go back and make some changes, and it'll show them as not having handed it in anymore, and then they can resubmit it back to you as well. So they can still see their work once they hand it in, but they cannot make changes to it. Okay, and that's an easy way for you to track. As a teacher, once it's been handed in, you have a chance to go give them some comments, give them some feedback like we just talked about. You can put a mark on it, and you can return it to them. And it's when you return it to them, it actually notifies the student. It'll send them a little email. So they've got their email notifications on in Gmail. It'll say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so has returned this to you. Here's your mark. They can click the link and go right back to the document. It's all streamlined for them there too. It tracks the due dates for you too as a teacher. So off in the top left-hand corner as a student, you can see when their due dates are. It will tell them if things are late or overdue. It's easy tracking. I never have a student coming up to me anymore asking me, what do I owe you? What do I have to hand in still? It's always right there in Classroom for them. So that's the true magic of Classroom. It automates all that sharing for you. It makes life so simple and easy. All right, I'm keeping an eye on the time here, and I want to make sure we get out of here for 9. And you guys had some great questions, which has taken some time. So I'm actually going to put the Trying Google Classroom on hold and continue on with the session. I've got 2 other tools I want to talk with you tonight. I want to make sure we get through on time. I'm happy to stick around at the end and answer any questions, and you guys can play around with it then too. And another thing I'll just kind of say about myself, I absolutely love geeking out with teachers about technology. So if you want to reach out to me after the session too, I'm happy to connect with you one-on-one as well. Okay, continuing on. So I'm going to leave Google Apps for Education now. Google Apps was great. I think Drive is an amazing cloud storage. Docs and Drive is a great creation tool. Google Classroom is a great way of automating all of that. I want to shift into a different space now, looking at going digital and being paperless, and that's looking at our lesson planning. So there are a variety of lesson planning tools out there. The best one I found is from a company called Chalk.com, and the tool is called Planboard for lesson planning. There actually is an OTF version of Planboard, which uses some extra features there too. So I'm going to introduce you to the very quick basics here of Planboard. I'm going to go through this relatively quickly, but it's an awesome tool that I love and also completely free. Okay, so I mentioned Chalk.com. Chalk.com is a company. They're based actually out of Kitchener-Waterloo. They're an Ontario company. They did a partnership with OTF. Planboard is free. If you do an OTF Planboard account, it actually gives you some added features as well, which I'm going to go through here in a sec. And the first tool or app Chalk.com created was Planboard, which is a digital lesson planner for teachers. I love it. It has saved my life. As I started using more digital tools, things like Google Docs and Drive and things like that, a paper planner or a little chart in Microsoft Word was not cutting it for me to keep myself organized for my lessons. Taking my lesson plans digital with OTF Planboard has been absolutely phenomenal for me. So with that in mind, I'm just going to show you what Planboard looks like here. We've got a review to watch and I'll kind of take this through. Lorraine, I'm glad to hear someone else using it. Yeah, absolutely too. And just for the rest of you here too, we've got about 20 minutes left in the session. I'm going to go through Planboard here very quickly. We're going to watch one last video on it, and then I'm going to talk about Markboard, which is a brand new tool from them. It kind of works with Planboard, and it's a way of doing assessments online as well too, and kind of rubrics and things like that. All right, so I'm going to go through very quickly here for the last 20 minutes, but again, you can come back and use these resources after the fact too. So when you're in Planboard, you get this digital tool. This is online. They have an app they just released too for the iPhone. You can kind of check your lesson plan it that way too. But if you're on the web, this is a weekly view. I can look around. I can jump around dates. I can click on any single class and create your classes here and jump in to do some lesson planning for that class to keep yourself organized in your calendar online. So they have 4 different views they have. The first one is the day view. So this is kind of scroll down through your day. You've got a little sticky note off the side. You can click in and add in your lesson plans for that day. The second option is the weekly view. So you can kind of get an overview of your week, look at how things are kind of playing off each other. You also have a monthly view. So you can just see the titles of your lesson plans for your courses through here. And they also have a unit view within a specific course. You can kind of tag off your lessons by units. You can rearrange in here and kind of look at your overview for an entire course over the course of a semester or the year. The basic functionality too, they have a variety of options. You can create basic templates you can use for all your lesson plans. You can cover specific curriculum expectations off in your lesson plans to see what's covered when and what you've covered throughout the semester. There's a bunch of settings and templates in there too. So I mentioned standards and expectations. When you're creating a specific lesson plan, they actually have all of the Ontario curriculum built into this. So you can tag off the specific strands you're working through and actually track what you have covered in your classroom lessons, what you haven't covered. You can click at any time to see the deployment where they are. You can go to a specific curriculum expectation and it will show you what lessons you covered down on. It's a really, really cool feature. I love using it myself. So when you click on the editor, though, it looks very similar to like a Google Doc. And you got a variety of options here. So you got, bold, italics, underlines, bolded list, numbered list, but it's web-based. You can take advantage of all the stuff online as well. So you can insert images from the web. You can insert videos right from here. You can link out to other websites. So again, we do so much online with our classes today that, and I'm doing so much online with my lesson plans that Planboard is phenomenal for keeping all that organized and just linking out to stuff and finding it very easily. Down there you can see where you can add standards. It also has unlimited cloud storage for your lesson plan, so you can upload files here. So if you have handouts, PDFs, PowerPoints, whatever it may be, you can actually upload those files and keep them tied to a specific lesson plan. And right there. Yeah, Rachel, you got a quick question? If you have a mic, if you want to put it off onto the side. And yeah, Kathy, it is unlimited. They have unlimited storage for the lesson plans here. And as Rachel is typing out that question, I'm just going to keep going, keep an eye on time here. So you can upload unlimited files there, and you have a template selection. Oh, clap hands. Yes, it is awesome. I'm glad you're liking it. You also have a variety of sharing options here and things you can do with it. So you can copy a lesson, you can move, you can shift things back and forth. So one of the things I absolutely love about this too, if you come from an area, you have a fair bit of snow days. I used to use the Microsoft Word file where I had like a table and all my lesson plans organized in there. And every time I had a snow day, I had to spend 45 minutes copying and pasting the lesson a day forward and moving things around. Here you click just shift the day forward and it shifts all your lessons up a day. It keeps them within your schedule. It moves it around PDs and holidays. It's absolutely cool. It literally saves me hours upon hours. Also at the end of the semester, if you're reteaching the same course in a new semester, you can put the start date, end date, days off, click a button, and it will take your lesson plans from the last time you put out that course and insert it into your new course with a click of a button. Also really cool and a time saver. Now, actually, just keeping an eye on time here. Actually, let's just go with this one too. So, Colin, let's go with this video. I think we'll finish off the last piece quickly enough. So we're going to go through another demo video here too, so you can see a lesson planning for Planboard in action.
Sorry, just give me a second here. My computer's decided it wants to not behave.
Fair enough, no worries.
Okay, what are you doing now? Oh, there we go. I think we're back now. All right, let's try it again. All right, so we're going to go to the tour here, and I hope this is the right one. Here we go. Uh-oh, invalid web tour. That's not good. Let's try that again. Here we go again. Oh dear, what have I done? Sorry about that, Andrew. Give me 2 seconds here.
No worries, Colin.
Okay. I'm going to try one more thing. Copy. Just give me a second. Almost there. Trying again. There we go.
We're going to ask Colin to switch us back to the presentation here. Thank you very much, Colin. And yes, this is offered by OTF. There is a free version from chalk.com, which is a regular Planboard. There's also an OTF Planboard account. The email you got today from OTF Connects actually has a link to a much more detailed session I did on OTF Planboard. You can go back and check that if you want. There's other embedded videos in there to see. This is kind of a really quick intro for a way you can go in and do and get an idea of what Planboard is and how it works for on lesson planning about it. And thank you, Colin, for sharing the link there. All right, we got 7 minutes till 9. I want to get you guys through this here. So one other thing I want to highlight for Planboard, and it kind of popped up in the questions there, is that it's very simple to share. So in any single lesson, there's a share button right built in. If you click on it, you can actually click on the get link or embed code. It will give you a unique link to that specific lesson plan, so you can post this onto a class website if you have one. If you want to post this to Google Classroom, ideally you can email it to people too. So I'll email it if I'm going to be away unexpectedly. I can email it to my department head or the secretarial staff or my admin at my school. If I have students who are away, I will email it to them. Or if parents want to go back and help a student with a lesson, I'll email it to them that way. It's an awesome way to share your lesson plans online. You can also embed them to a website or a blog or something along those lines as well. With that in mind, I have a quick video here about sharing through Planboard and what that looks like, but keep an eye on the time here. I'm going to ask Colin if you have the link to it, if you could post it off in the chat for this video, but we're not going to play it right now just because if you guys want to go back and watch, it's only like 3 or 4 minutes. You can watch it after the fact if you want to open it up here from the chat feature. But I'm not going to have it play here right now because there's one last tool I want to talk about with you all tonight and get you out of here for right on time for 9 o'clock. So the last thing I want to talk about is Planboard. There you go, the link if you want to go see about how to share within Planboard. I'm going to skip to try it yourself here, sorry. The last thing I want to talk about is Markboard. The reason I want to talk about Markboard, there's some other digital assessment tools out there. EasyGrade is a great one. Someone mentioned Seesaw earlier today, which is great for some tracking and stuff like that too. But Markboard is a really brand new tool, and it's under chalk.com as well. So if you have a Planboard account, you also automatically have a Markboard account, and they play back and forth with each other. It's relatively new and being built out, but I thought I would share with you tonight if you're looking to go digital with your assessments as well. So here is Markboard in the very basics. Like I said, it's under chalk.com, so if you use Planboard, you've got Markboard as well. You can just access it one from the other right there and work back and forth between the two of them. So because they work together and it's in the same account, the great thing about Planboard is when you create a class in Planboard and start doing your lesson planning there, it automatically creates that class for you in Markboard as well. So I actually didn't make these classes in Markboard. I just logged in and then they were right there for me. I had access to those sections right from Planboard, and they kind of work back and forth, which is really cool and really awesome. As I go into a class view here, I get a chance to go and add my students in. So again, however you want to do that, you can click on the 0 students there, add your students into your class. Under the settings piece, you can click and create your types of assessments, view your weightings, however you break that down for your class. It might be something like test, exam, assignments, formative, whatever it may be. You can name those yourself and you can choose the weightings for them there. Okay, and if you want to create an assessment, there's that plus button up to the top right-hand corner. Click on Create Assessment. From there, what you get, if I click on the settings example here, this is what it looks like. You can see a visual breakdown of your weightings for your class, how you want to weight them. These ones are defaulted in, but you can delete them out with the X. You can add your own categories in. You can change the weightings there for them and get the kind of little visual breakdown of what it's going to look like for you. And I mentioned that plus button. If you click that plus button to create assignments, you get 3 options. You can create an assignment based on the score. You can do a binary assessment, or you can do a rubric, which is what I'm going to focus on with you here. So if you click the rubric tool, you're going to get a few options here to create this rubric off that too. If you click on the unit, it's been using the unit feature in Planboard to kind of create your units and map your units out by lesson plans. Those will show up here right for you. You don't need to create them again. They're just automatically there, so you can click the unit you were building on in Planboard for this assessment, name the title, choose what it's going to be out of the categories you're creating. You can choose what category you want to mark this assessment as. And as I said, just like Planboard has all of the Ontario curriculum in there too, so does Markboard. So you click on Add Standards, you can go and find a specific curriculum expectations and choose what you're going to be marking off for the specific assessment. You also have the option, you can see the little toggle, the green bar with the white button, if you want to mark this as a summative or a formative piece. If you choose summative, it's obviously going to count towards your marks and go into that overall mark. If you choose as formative, it's not going to count towards that formal mark in the course. Once you fill that out, you get into this rubric tool here, and you got the knowledge, understanding, application, thinking, inquiry sections there too. You got the levels you can just check off for a student, give them an overall mark. You can see these specific curriculum expectations I tagged off. So I got the B1, B2, B3 there. I get to track what they're actually I'm assessing them on and what specific curriculum expectations I've marked them on and where. And you get an option to leave them some feedback down there in the comment box after the fact. You can also attach files to this rubric. So if you have some student work you want to attach to it, or an image you took of them in class or something along those lines, you can attach that digitally to this rubric right here as well within Markboard. When you're looking at your assessments throughout the semester, you can actually filter them out too. So you get an overall picture of each assessment, look at a class, you can see the class average on that specific assessment. Or you can look at just a specific unit or a specific category you create. So you like say just look at the tests, or just look at the assignments, or just look at all the formative pieces you did, or just the summative pieces, or you can look at it all together. So you're trying to find different ways of looking at student data and student assessment. You've got different ways to filter that out and get a bit more of a rich picture with what you're looking at for your students there. All right, we're right at 8:59, so I'm going to skip the try it part here. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you giving up your time to listen in. As I'm wrapping up here, I'll just mention I actually really do love to connect with teachers. So if you have any questions after tonight, please feel to reach me. I've got my Twitter, Google+, and LinkedIn accounts there too. Email me anytime if you got questions. I'm really, truly happy to work with teachers one-on-one and kind of help them through this process. Before you leave, I believe Colin's going to have a very quick spiel for you here, and we'll get you out right at 9 o'clock.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, we just have a couple of quick things here to wrap up. I'm going to start by, I'm going to go to my little applause button over here. Where's my applause button? There we go. And give Andrew a round of applause because that was jam-packed but really cool. There's lots of great stuff in there for everybody. As we wrap up here, there's just one thing, or two things to quickly remind you of. When you close out of this, you'll get this as a pop-up in a browser, or you can click the link here in front of you. It's just a feedback form, and the feedback really helps plan future sessions. Andrew will get the feedback as well, so you can you can tell him what you thought of him and how much you enjoyed and what you've learned from him. But it really helps everybody all around. After you've done the feedback form, you'll also get an opportunity within the next 48 hours to print off a certificate stating that you attended this session, and you've got some PD, so you can stick that certificate in a portfolio or what have you, for whatever you might need it for in the future. So that's just something that has been asked for by people in the past, and OTF has obliged that. So you do the feedback form, and then at the end of the feedback form you'll get a link to take you to a spot where you can then get a certificate and print it out. So yeah, like a TPA, exactly, Kathy. That's the kind of thing you can do in there when you're asked what your self-directed PD is. Well, you've got some. Just a quick plug here for some upcoming sessions. OTF is always adding new things. We've got a ton of things coming up in the next, well, right through to the end of the school year, but there's usually 3 or 4 every week. So you can check the OTF calendar. Here's a few things that are coming up in the very, very near future. And then the very last thing is some free money. If you've got an idea in your head that you want to take an AQ or an ABQ in math in particular, OTF has some subsidy funding available for that. So feel free to visit the OTF website and get some more information on that. So, like I said, thanks again, Andrew. Thanks again, everybody, for coming up tonight. And when we close out of here, please fill out that survey, the feedback form, and I will also put the feedback survey into the chat here just in case it doesn't work for you, but it should work automatically when you sign out of the Collaborate here tonight. So I'm going to stop the recording and then we can sort of wrap things up.